Assalamu alaikum. I'm here at the Egyptian Embassy in London demonstrating for Gaza. So I gave a speech just a short while ago for Lighthouse Advocacy talking about the genocide on Gaza and how the regimes in the region have been complicit in what's happened.
So what was your key message to the protesters here?
The key message was really that this genocide could not continue without their support of the regimes. So they've allowed trade and allowed their treaties to continue intact while the people of Gaza have been bombed and starved to death. So really this is a message to put pressure on those with the capability in armed forces, the scholars, the journalists, the thinkers, that they must speak out and do more to end this genocide. The Egyptian armed forces, the Jordanian armed forces are capable forces who are not being used to end this genocide. And in fact, they're protecting the borders of Israel, which has allowed this genocide to continue for 581 days.
Some say, look, the rulers, they don't really have power because we know these are controlled by the West, or they have influence by the West. How would you respond to that?
I think the rulers themselves have no power because they've chosen to become vassal states of Western powers. But in terms of their resources, their armed forces, their strategic location, it's very important in this region. And if they work together, they could easily end this occupation. Gaza, which is no more than a third the size of London, has still not been fully occupied by the Israelis, who cannot overwhelm even a small number of defenders. Imagine now if two new fronts were open against it. Imagine if the Suez Canal was used in terms of putting pressure internationally. Imagine if they used their trade, such as cutting off oil. All of these measures have not even been considered.
What about if you look at Turkey? They are supplying the Zionist state, Israel. If we look at Egypt, they are supplying, food and oil and all the other necessities for them to stay alive. What would be your message?
I think this is unfortunately the classic hypocrisy that we see amongst many Muslim regimes, where on one hand they condemn the brutality in terms of the genocide, but on the other hand they're feeding the oppressor through trade. So we know Turkish ships are leaving the ports within Turkey and arriving in Haifa with all manner of supplies when they should be putting maximum pressure. So what we've seen in Yemen, just blocking the Red Sea, has caused a massive disruption to the Israeli economy. Imagine now if the Mediterranean Sea was blocked. But this is the problem. We don't find these nations are working for the interests of the Muslims of Palestine. In fact, they're working for their own business interests and their own power.
What can the Muslims of the Arab world, what can they do? Because we've seen in the Asian subcontinent, Bangladesh and Pakistan, there were over 2 million people came out to demonstrate. What can physically, because we know the reality of the Muslims surrounding the area, what can they really physically do?
So I think the issue that we have is not with the population. The population is desperate to help. And that's very, very clear from the demonstrations, from their call. But the problem is that the people who have power, the armed forces, the political regime, are not intending to move. We need to apply as much pressure as we can. And that comes about through social media, through posts and talks and discussions, and pointing the finger at those who have the capability. Because actually, we can't forget that the armed forces are still from within the people. They are not acting according to what the people are demanding and what is right, but ultimately they are the key to this change. So they are the problem and solution at the very same time. And we need to appeal to those sincere people to say, look, enough is enough.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.